بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد سيد الأولين والآخرين وحبيب رب العالمين. I ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us all the sincere intentions for His sake alone. The Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam said in a hadith, Thalathun, three, Man kunna fihi, whoever possesses these three, حاسبه الله حسابا يسيرا. You know, in Surah Al-Inshiqaq, or is it Al-Infitar? Allah revealed, أما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا. Whoever receives the book of deeds in the right hand, فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا. His hisab, his accountability, him being held to account on the day of judgment, it will be hisaban yasira. It will be easy. As for some other people like the kuffar, their hisab will not be easy. Their being held to account will not be easy. يُدَقَّقُ عَلَيْهِمْ فِي الْحِسَابِ, meaning that the questioning will be a strict one, very detailed, very detailed. And that itself is a stress, that alone, to know that, for example, if you know when you go for your driving test or you have some sort of test where there's an instructor, and word might get around that, oh, this instructor is really, really strict, right? And you dread having that person. Or there's an inspection and you find out that, oh, this person's coming to inspect, they're known to be really strict. Just knowing that by itself is a stress. So there are some people on the Day of Judgment whose hisab will not be easy. Lots of things won't be overlooked in one sense. They won't be pardoned for the kuffar at the very least. And the Muslims, they will have, as Allah revealed in the Quran, the pious Muslims. فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبْ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا. The hisab will be very easy. So the Prophet ﷺ said, ثَلَاثٌ, there are three things. مَنْ كُنَّ فِيهِ, whoever possesses these three matters or does them, حَاسَبَهُ اللَّهُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا. His hisab will be a very easy hisab. وَأَدْخَلَهُ الْجَنَّةِ, and he will be admitted into paradise. That means without any torture. He said to a companion, if you do these three, تُعْطِي مَنْ حَرَمَكَ. Literally, if you give to the one that prevents you or denies you. An example. You ask your Muslim neighbor for a broom, and they say no. Just for no reason, they say no. They prevented you from the broom. They haven't given to you when you've asked. Next day, this was in their destiny, and it's how it turned out. Next day, they needed a broom. They came to you. What do? You give them. Completely fine. And like that, there are other matters. That's just one example. Many other matters. They prevented you from something, they denied you of something, but when it comes to them asking you for that very same or similar thing, you don't say, they prevented me, I'm going to do the same. No, you give. قال عليه الصلاة والسلام تعطي من حرمك. Give to the one that denies you. وتعفو عمن ظلمك. And pardon those that have done injustice to you. They wronged you. They insulted you verbally or physically. They might have assaulted you or other things as well. The reason why this person gets paradise and gets al-hisab al-yasir, the easy account, or questioning is because it's so hard to do this. It's so hard for a person to forgive and pardon, to give to the one who denied him, and to pardon the one that was unjust. وَتَصِلُ مَنْ قَطَعَكَ. And when it comes to ties, obligatory ties of kinship, to keep the ties, to visit those that have cut you off. That's hard. It's really difficult. So the Prophet ﷺ said that this person, if he possesses these three characteristics, these three behaviors, then they will have al-hisab al-yasir, an easy account on the Day of Judgment, and Allah will admit them into paradise by His mercy. And in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, لَنْ يَنَالَ عَبْدٌ صَرِيحَ الْإِيمَانِ حَتَّى. A person, literally speaking, will not acquire, will not attain core Iman. It means the highest levels of Iman. Perfection in Iman. He will not acquire this. He will not become a perfect believer unless حَتَّى يَصِلَ مَنْ قَطَعَهُ, unless he literally joins those that cut him. Obligatory ties. وَيَعْفُوَ عَمَّنْ ظَلَمَهُ, and he pardons. Al-afu, like mu'af karna. We usually say maaf karna, it's actually mu'af. Right? To pardon those that were unjust. وَيَغْفِرَ, and to forgive. Who? لِمَنْ شَتَمَهُ, to forgive the person who swears at him. وَيُحْسِنَ إِلَى مَنْ أَسَاءَ إِلَيْهِ, and to treat well the one that mistreated him. Such a person attains perfection in belief. And the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ لِلَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ لَوْحًا مِنْ زُمُرُّدَةٍ خَضْرَاءٍ. Allah created a tablet made of green emerald. جَعَلَهُ تَحْتَ الْعَرْشِ. Its place is that it is situated underneath the arsh. وَكَتَبَ فِيهِ إِنِّي أَنَا اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا أَرْحَمُ وَأَتَرَحَّمُ. And Allah created within it a piece of writing that says, indeed, I am Allah, and no one deserves to be worshipped other than me, and I am the merciful. خَلَقْتُ بِضْعَةَ عَشَرَ وَثَلَاثَمِائَةِ خُلُقٍ. Allah revealed that I have created 310 plus. So when they say بِضْعَةَ عَشَرَ ثَلَاثِمِائَةِ, it means that, like we say 24 or 20 something, 30 something. We don't usually say 10 something, do we? When we mean between 10 and 19, we don't say that. That's what it means here. بِضْعَةَ عَشَرَ وَثَلَاثَمِائَةِ. 310, 311, 312. Allah has created 310 plus manners. مَنْ جَاءَ بِخُلُقٍ مِّنْهَا مَعَ الشَّهَادَةِ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. Whoever acquires and implements one of these manners, one of these 310 approximately, whoever acquires them and then for the sake of Allah implements this, even one of these manners, whilst testifying that no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah, meaning they're a Muslim, دخل الجنة, he would enter paradise. So again, you see the great merit of good manners. And good manners are only learned through the religion, through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the one that came to renew the good manners and to perfect them, to top them up, if you will, to upgrade them, to teach people what they are. Shaykh Abdullah mentioned, radiyallahu anhu, that there are three integrals of the good manners. Do you want to give me one of them? Just one. Yes, very good. That's the first one. بذل المعروف لمن عرف لك ولمن لم يعرف لك, as you said. Brother Nasir, you want to give me another one? Not harming people. Very good. Brother Mashiach.
To be patient with the harm from people.
MashaAllah, yes. As though you knew I was going to ask you. As though I told you beforehand that I'm going to ask you three. MashaAllah. So continuing then from that, At-Tirmidhi narrated, and this is a very important hadith, so please do memorize it, please do write it down. At-Tirmidhi narrated. Sometimes it happens, you mention a hadith or the meaning of a hadith, and then someone will say, oh, who narrated it? But sometimes they say who narrated it because they want to benefit. That's fine. Sometimes people just say who narrated it just for the sake of saying who narrated it, because it's not like they're going to go look it up. But, like. So remember, At-Tirmidhi narrated from the route of Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman, Sahibu Sirri Rasulillah alayhi salatu wassalam. Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, لا يكن أحد منكم إمعة. Do not be a imma'a. Who is the imma'a? يقول أنا مع الناس. The imma'a is the one that says, I am with the people literally. Meaning, I behave as the people behave. In أحسن الناس أحسنت. If they're good to me, fair enough, I'm good to them. وإن أساءوا أسأت. And if they're bad to me, I'm bad to them. أنا مع الناس. Don't be this person that says الذي يقول أنا مع الناس إذا أحسن الناس أحسنت وإذا أساءوا أسأت. I'm with the people. Just as they behave with me, I'll be with them. If they're good to me, I'll be good. And if they're bad to me, I'll be bad. The Prophet ﷺ said, وَلَكِنْ وَطِّنُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Meaning, have it well rooted in your hearts. In أحسن الناس, if people are good to you, أن تحسنوا. Be good to them. وَإِنْ أَسَاءُوا أَن تَجْتَنِبُوا إِسَاءَتَهُمْ. And if they are not good to you, if they are bad, they don't treat you well, then avoid their harm. In another narration, it says that, and this is the benefit of different narrations. Here it said avoid their harm. If they're bad to you, then avoid their harm. In another narration, an added detail is that if they're bad to you, you still treat them well. You still should treat them well. Nowadays, if someone was to do this, and it was very apparent, some people, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, would call them stupid. Some people would say, they've harmed you, why are you going to go and give them a gift? Are you stupid? وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. They'd say, well, this person has harmed you. Why are you being so nice to them? Why are you? Don't you have any honor? Someone might say. Don't you have any izzat? That's what some people might say. That they've humiliated you. A Punjabi statement came to mind, which is very fitting. But I leave that to the imagination. They say, why are you accommodating for them whilst they are not treating you well? So, the Prophet told us not to be this person. What did he refer to this person as? One word. What was it? Who said that? Was that Brother Nasir? MashaAllah. What was it actually? Yes, Allah. Imma'a. A little bit. Tabarakallah. He said, do not be a imma'a. Who narrated the hadith from this side, please? Who narrated the hadith? Sorry? And which, very good, which companion? Someone else. Which companion was it? Looking all the way at Dawood over there. Dawood? Which companion was it? Yeah? Ibrahim? Hudhayfa man? Ibn man? Ibn? Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman. So you did know. MashaAllah. Jayyid. Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman. from, he narrated, as At-Tirmidhi reported, that the Prophet ﷺ said, don't be al-imma'ah. And the imma'ah is the one that we described, and also is the one whom the scholar said, لا يثبت مع أحد. This person isn't really with anybody. They're not really with anybody. They'll be good, because look what happens. You know what? While you treat them well, they'll be fine with you. But if you even say a word that is negative to them, or you seem like you're going against them, they're going to turn on you. So they're not really with anybody. They're not really with their friends, and they're not really with their enemies. Because the day might come where they just turn on their friends and they'll be with the enemies. Just because they treat people the way people treat them. The rule is, treat everybody well. Even those that treat you badly, yes. These are the teachings of our Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. So the scholar said, إن الإمعة, the imma'a is the one الذي لا يثبت مع أحد. He doesn't stay with one person. ولا على رأي. And also he's very opinionated, changes his opinion like this and that. لضعف رأيه. He has a weak mind. So, to treat people well who do not treat you well requires you to be very strong as a person. It requires confidence, because if you're going to be strong as a person and you're going to treat well those that don't treat you well, you're going to have to be strong to be patient with the rubbish that people throw at you. When they say to you, are you dumb? Are you stupid? Are you feeling alright? Are you alright in the head? Why are you treating them like this when they treat you like this? A person has to be patient with that. Because they should wish to prefer what the Prophet came with, alayhi salatu wassalam. Even though many Muslims will say to another person, what are you doing? They're not treating you right. Why are you treating them like that? Why are you treating them well? This is why Shaykh Abdullah al-Harari radiyallahu anhu said, Man la yukhalifu nafsahu, the one who doesn't go against himself. Because your nafs doesn't want that. What does your nafs want? When someone treats you bad, your nafs wants to attack. Get him. Attack him verbally. Or have a stab. Of course it does. That's what your nafs thrives off. So one has to go against it. And the more you go against it, the easier it becomes. Remember, it took that companion or that person 40 years. So if you think it's going to happen over, an iftar and a sahur, no. Not usually. So Shaykh Abdullah said, Man la yukhalifu nafsahu, whoever doesn't train himself, go against his nafs, la yataraqqa, will not ascend. Ar-ruqi is to go up, to ascend in rank, right? As a person, in character, in personality, to rise, right? So he said, whoever doesn't go against himself, forget about it. It's not happening. La yataraqqa. This ruqi is not going to happen. It's just going to be either the person stays where they are or nuzul, ila al-asfal. Okay? Man la yukhalifu nafsahu la yataraqqa. Likewise, when it comes to food, this is also applied to food. If a person's eating, always they're eating luxuriously, very luxuriously, then that's not sinful. It's not sinful. But it's not recommended. Such a person won't gain a higher rank. They can't expect to gain the higher rank, like to become among the awliya. No chance. Until they go against themselves. So this applies to many things. This is just one of them. مَنْ لَا يُخَالِفُ نَفْسَهُ لَا يَتَرَقَّى. If a person is content with staying how they are, they don't want to ameliorate their character, they don't want to exert any extra effort, then actually what's going to guarantee for them that they're going to stay where they are? Nothing. They don't want to get stronger, then what's possible is that they're going to stay where they are, or more likely, go down. So the Shaykh, he compiled 2 verses of poetry in this regard. He said, خالف هواك ترقى للمعالي. If you go against yourself, you'll have this ruqi. You'll rise. You'll rise to the lofty stations, to places that are high. Khalif hawaka, the hawa is the inner desires. Even if they're not sinful, like eating lots and lots of food, having all these different sauces and all these different toppings and all these different kinds of foods at once. Khalif hawaka, what's the result? Tarqa lil ma'ali, you'll go to lofty ranks. Hatta tara, and then you'll see what? Hatta tara nata'ij al-kamali, the results of kamal, perfection. You'll see that in your deeds. You'll see that in your inclinations. Then, abdul hawa ya'ulu lil halaki, the one who is constantly serving his nafs, his hawa, his inner desires, he is bound lil halak, destruction, bound for destruction. ثم يرى نتائج الوبال, and then he will see the results of that destruction later. So a person has to go against himself. We take our example, or take examples from the stories of the pious in the past. It's very important to do that. Allah revealed in the Quran, وَقْصُصِ الْقَصَصِ, to the Prophet ﷺ, tell stories of the people in the past. That's why there are a lot of stories in the Quran. It's not just a book of rules. There are stories, so that people would read, people would ponder, learn by looking at the examples of the trials and tribulations people faced in the past, and so that they can relate to them, or so that they can recognize that, those people really went through really hard stuff. What we're going through isn't that much. And people understand through stories. So one of the kuffar, he once heard that Al-Imam Ahmad al-Rifa'i radiyallahu anhu, the one who kissed the hand of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the year, in which year? Who remembers? It's very easy. Which year? 555. Okay? It's not hard, is it? Right? 555 after Hijrah. After the passing of the Prophet ﷺ by some 500 years, the grave of the Prophet ﷺ opened up, and the people in the masjid saw the hand, the blessed hand of the Prophet ﷺ. And Al-Imam Ahmad al-Rifa'i kissed it, and the Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, after whom this hall is named, also saw that. Once Al-Imam Ahmad al-Rifa'i, rather there was a person among the non-Muslims who saw that there are a lot of people around Al-Imam Ahmad, and he is an imam of the Muslims. He is a scholar, he is a pious person, he guides people to the truth and so on. So he went to him, not seeking the truth, he went to him to ridicule him. He said to him, and he knew that the people call him Sayyid, because he was a descendant of the Prophet ﷺ. So he said, belittlingly, Ya Sayyid, oh you Sayyid. And where they were, there was a dog there. He said, Anta afdal amil kalb. Put yourself in that position, just for a moment. Imagine you've stepped outside your house, and you've taken your car keys out. You're about to get into your car. Someone walks past and says, excuse me, mate. Yeah? I was just wondering, are you better at this dog? This dog. They pointed to dog. Now the car key, which was supposed to go into the car, might go somewhere else, right? So imagine someone asked you that. Listen, are you better at this dog? Ya Latif. So he asked him, Ya Sayyid, Anta afdal am hadha al-kalb? So, also, like we mentioned previously, ijabatul akabir. This is an answer that only someone who knows what he's talking about, he's focused on the hereafter. among the awliya, he knows this life. He knows what it is. He knows it's a trap for people. He knows that there are distractions in it. He knows what it's about, hardships. He knows that the end or the goal is paradise. What did he say? He didn't get angry. He was very humble. He said to him, إِن نَجَوْتُ عَلَى الصِّرَاطِ فَأَنَا خَيْرٌ مِنْهُ. He said, if I am able to pass on the sirat and get to the other side, then I will know I am better than the dog. Otherwise what? Otherwise if I die, if I fall in, if I die as a kafir, then the dog is better than me. That man was astonished. Astonished. What an answer that this person gave. Because he really considers, he knows, Allah revealed in the Quran, إِنَّ شَرَّ الدَّوَابِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. But the worst things that Allah created are الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Which means that the animal is better. So he said, if I am safe, because if I get to the other side, what does that mean? It was paradise. The earth, al-ardu al-mubaddala, the changed earth on one side, underneath is hell, the sirat, it goes across, and then there's paradise on the other side. So if I get to the other side, إِذَا نَجَوْتُ, if I get a najah, if I'm saved, فَأَنَا at that point, you will realize, أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِنْهُ, I am better than the dog. So the man, he said, أَشْهَدُ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. He said, أَذْهَبُ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِي. Not only that, he was so moved. He said, not only that, I am going to go to my family. I'm going to my village or my family. وَأَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَى الْإِسْلَامِ. And I will call them to Islam. In qabilu, if they accept, جِئْتُ بِهِمْ, I'm going to come to you. You are someone who needs to be learned from. You are trustworthy. He said, إِذَا قَبِلُوا, if they accept Islam like I have just now, جِئْتُ بِهِمْ إِلَيْكَ, I will bring them to you. We'll all learn with you. He said, وَإِلَّا, and if they don't accept, رَجَعْتُ دُونَهُمْ, I'll come back without them. I'm coming to you. Look at that. This person embraced Islam because of the answer that this person gave, a sincere answer that he gave for the sake of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Once our Shaykh radiyallahu anhu, he was in Switzerland, and Shaykh Abdullah had this effect on people, subhanallah, because he was a wali, so he was blessed. Sometimes there would be people that were walking in the street, like when they'd see him sometimes in France or in Switzerland and other places, they would just come and they would, for example, there were a group of women that came once, young women, and they didn't have scarves on or anything like that, and they came to him, there might have been 3 or 4 of them, out for some coffee or something. They came and they intended to come to him, and there were some students of his with him, and they didn't even speak Arabic, they spoke French. And they said to the students of Shaykh Abdullah, can you tell him to make dua for us? What was apparent is that they weren't even Muslims. So can you tell him to make dua for us? So they asked, why? Why did you intend, all the way from over there, why did you come to us? They said, because he seems like a special man. There's something about him. So Shaykh Abdullah was once in Switzerland with some of his students, and there was a man wearing a suit like a businessman, just one of those people, a non-Muslim. And he came to Shaykh Abdullah. He saw him, and they had been traveling, so like they stopped at a service station or something so Shaykh could rest, and they got him something to drink. So this person, he approached Shaykh Abdullah, and he said to Shaykh Abdullah in French, he said, is it okay if I shake your hand? Ask him, is it okay if I shake his hand? Just like that. Is it okay if I shake his hand? So they asked the Shaykh, they said, the Mawlana, he said, no. Yeah. He's a non-Muslim, so okay. He said, yeah, I'll shake his hand. So the Shaykh shook his hand, and then the Shaykh said to them, قُولُوا لَهُ أَنصَحُكَ نَصِيحًا. Sheikh Abdullah said to them, tell him, because they spoke French, tell him I want to advise him. So the man said, okay. He said, I want to talk to you about Islam. So he said, okay. So he sat down. He started to speak to him about Islam. And then he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Our Shaykh used to say, if Allah has eternally willed for something to happen, then Allah will facilitate it. Allah will create the steps for it. Sometimes you hear of an event and you think, how did that happen? How did that happen? Or imagine we knew of an event that would happen in the future. Like, for example, the Mahdi is coming. And things are going to get really bad. Imagine if we were told that things would... Imagine in 2017, we were told that in 2022, things are going to be really bad. People can have things over their faces. They won't be able to travel. They will have to get these, sort of tests done before they travel in different countries. All this is going to be going on. Imagine someone was told about that. They'd say, hey, how's that even going to happen? Suddenly, in like a day and a night, it happened, didn't it? Like a day and a night, and we thought, whoa, everyone's under quarantine. So if Allah has eternally willed something, Allah Ta'ala will facilitate it. Just before moving on to the next matter, so treating people well. Once Sheikh Abdullah was in a public place with some of his students, and they were sitting down. One of the students spilled something. It was in a place where there were a lot of non-Muslims. So one of the students spilled a little bit of tea, and Sheikh Abdullah said, "Imsahu." He said to him, "Wipe it quickly." Why? Because of the image that it gives to the non-Muslims of the Muslims. Imagine they just left it, they'll clean it. Which, okay, that's their job. Right? He said, Imsahu. He made a point of it. Clean it. Because of the good image that gives off to the non-Muslims. And perhaps some of them, after seeing that, they would embrace Islam. So, 3 integrals of good manners. The first one was to treat everybody well. Those that treat you well and those that do not treat you well. Even though inside your nafs is saying, scratch their face off. Or your nafs is saying, just gouge their eyes out. Your nafs is saying that. But you want to stick to the advice of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. And so you treat them well. That was the first integral of husnul khuluq. The second is kafful adha anin nas. Not harming people. You think about yourself. Are you a person whom others are comfortable with sitting with? Or do people fear that you're going to stab at them, swear at them, or you're going to insult them, or insinuate things, even in a light tone, insinuate things? Are you that kind of person? The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Muslim, the perfect Muslim, Man salim al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. Among the attributes of the perfect Muslim is the one whom other Muslims, they don't fear harm from his hands, his feet. They don't fear that he is going to physically attack them or verbally. This is a perfect Muslim. So in this you have many things. Insulting a Muslim is haram. It's a major sin. The Prophet ﷺ said, Sibabul Muslimi fusuq, fisq. Swearing at another Muslim, this is fisq. It's a major sin. Committing ghibah, so you're attacking them with your tongue. Backbiting, lying about them, accusing them, all of this is harm with the tongue. And then you have physical harm, whether you bring physical harm to their body or their property in a way that would sadden them. This is the second integral of good manners, for a person to not harm others. And the third is as-sabr ala adhan nas, to be patient with the harm of the people. Sahal at-Tusturi radiyallahu anhu was among the awliya, the famous awliya. He lived next door to a Jew, a Jewish person. And we might have noisy neighbors. We might have neighbors who give us parking issues, the street's too tight. There might be that they put their bin outside our house. When the wind blows, things blow out of their wheelie bin into our garden. Many things, right? But does it get as bad as this? Sahal at-Tusturi, he had this Jewish neighbor for a long time. And when he felt that he was about to pass away, Sahal, he felt he was about to pass away, he invited the Jew and he said to him, I feel like my time is coming to an end. And I just wanted to advise you, because those that live in this house after me might not be as patient as me. He said, in my house, there is a wall where there is a bit of a crack, a bit of a leak. And when you go to the bathroom, it leaks down that crack. And it's been like that for a long time. But I didn't want to harm you or bother you. I was patient with that. But those that come after me might not be as patient. So look at the difference between somebody parking the car in your spot or putting the bin in front of your house, and between urine and feces actually coming into. Imagine that happened. Don't know what you'd do. Imagine that happened. Imagine suddenly the pipe burst through the wall. I don't believe. That would be different, to say the least. So this person, when he heard that from Sahal, he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Because it overcomes them that what is this lifestyle that this person is living? I know he's a Muslim. He follows Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. What is it that makes him so patient? It can't be anything but the teachings of his Prophet. That's what it is. No one else. He knows his own dad wouldn't be that patient with him. So what could he say? La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. So 3 integrals of patience. Whoever has these 3, whoever is good to everyone, good to those that are good to him, and good to those that have harmed him. 1. 2, they do not harm others. People feel safe when they're around. People feel safe. They don't feel anxious. They don't feel disturbed. They don't feel agitated or stressed. 3rd, they are patient with the harm of others. A person who possesses these 3, the Prophet ﷺ was a witness to the fact that such a person would have the same rank. Shaykh Abdullah once explained this, and he did this. He said, Yusawi, the same rank as a person who fasts the optional fasts all year round. He might all year fast a day, leave a day, fast a day, leave a day, except the 5 days on which it's haram to fast, the 2 Eids and 3 days of Tashriq. This person who possesses these 3 mannerisms and he implements them, he'd have the same rank to Allah, the same rank as the person who performs all these optional fasts and stands for at-tahajjud every single night. But that person doesn't have good manners. The one who prays and fasts, imagine he doesn't have good manners. This one who does have good manners but doesn't pray and do the optional fasts, he'll have the same rank as him, the same rank. Both of them pray the obligatory prayers, of course, that's a given. And both of them fast the obligatory fasts. Tomorrow, insha'Allah, I will give examples of the many different things that come under these three integrals. Many different examples, some stories also, so that we can reflect as to what it means to have good manners, to have al-akhlaq al-hasana, or husnul khuluq. And like I said at the beginning, no Muslim who is sincere would hear this hadith and then not be moved into wanting to strive to have good manners. Like I said, we should do both. Strive to have good manners, and then secondly also do the optional deeds. Pray the sunnah prayers. Pray the nawafil. Perform at-tahajjud and perform the nawafil fasts. Insha'Allah, we'll meet tomorrow also at a similar time, where we will go through the rest of what I mentioned, insha'Allah ta'ala. Let us say La ilaha illallah and as-salah ala nabi. La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. See if you can get it right. Yeah?